In the cold, dark expanse of Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, a small research outpost stood as humanity's farthest reach into the unknown. The outpost was home to a team of scientists and engineers tasked with exploring the icy moon's secrets. Among them was Alex Carter, a young engineer known for his curiosity and occasional disregard for rules. He wasn't reckless by nature, but he had a way of pushing boundaries that sometimes made his colleagues uneasy. The team had been drilling into Europa's thick ice for weeks when they hit something unusual. Beneath layers of frozen water, they uncovered an object unlike anything they'd ever seen. It was sleek and metallic, its surface marked with intricate glowing patterns that pulsed faintly, almost like it was breathing. Dr. Emily Shaw, the lead scientist, examined it closely. Her face lit up with both excitement and caution. "This is extraordinary," she said, her voice steady but filled with awe. "It's clearly alien, and it could be centuries, or even millennia, old." The artifact was shaped like a suit, though its purpose wasn't immediately clear. Some parts looked like armor, while others seemed more like machinery, with joints and segments that hinted at mobility. The glowing pattern shifted occasionally, reacting to the light and movement around it. The discovery sent waves of excitement through the team, but also unease. They were dealing with something far beyond their understanding. Dr. Shaw instructed everyone to leave the suit untouched until they could run tests and analyze its properties. She reminded them of the risks involved in tampering with alien technology. "We don't know what this thing is capable of," she warned. "It could be dangerous, not just to us but to Earth if we mishandle it." Most of the team agreed, nodding solemnly, but Alex felt differently. To him, the suit wasn't just a discovery. It was an opportunity. He couldn't stop thinking about it, imagining what it might do, how it might feel to wear it. That night, while the rest of the crew slept, Alex decided to act on his curiosity. He slipped into the lab quietly, careful not to wake anyone. The suit lay on a table under soft lighting, its glow casting strange shadows on the walls. Alex stared at it for a moment, hesitating. He knew what Dr. Shaw had said, and he understood the risks, but the pull was too strong. He reached out slowly, his fingers brushing against the cool metal surface. As soon as he touched it, the suit reacted. The glowing patterns brightened and the entire structure hummed softly as if coming to life. Before Alex could pull back, the suit began moving on its own. Panels shifted, segments unfolded, and within seconds, it enveloped him completely. It fit perfectly, molding itself to his body like a second skin. For a moment, Alex froze, unsure of what was happening, but then he felt it, a surge of energy coursing through him. His senses sharpened dramatically. Colors became more vivid, sounds clearer, and his muscles felt stronger than ever before. He clenched his fists experimentally and felt power radiating from every movement. At first, Alex was exhilarated. He moved around the lab, testing his newfound abilities. He picked up a heavy piece of equipment with ease, marveling at his strength. When he accidentally bumped into a wall, the impact left no mark on him but dented the metal surface instead. A grin spread across his face as he realized the potential of what he'd just done. But the euphoria didn't last long. The suit started to change him in ways he hadn't expected. As he stood there, still adjusting to the sensations, Alex heard voices. At least, they sounded like voices, though they weren't coming from anywhere in the room. They echoed in his mind, speaking in a language he didn't understand. The words were melodic yet urgent, and they grew louder with each passing second. Alex tried to ignore them, focusing on controlling his movements. But the voices persisted. They seemed to urge him to do something, though he couldn't tell what. By morning, Alex knew he couldn't hide what he'd done. The suit was now firmly attached to him, refusing to budge no matter how hard he tried to remove it. When the rest of the team gathered in the lab, they were shocked and angry. Rachel Brooks, the outpost's security officer, was the first to react. "What were you thinking?" she demanded, her voice sharp with disbelief. "You could have endangered all of us." Dr. Shaw stepped forward, trying to calm the situation. "Alex, are you okay? Does it hurt?" she asked, studying him carefully. Alex shook his head. "I'm fine. he replied, though his tone betrayed his uncertainty. It feels powerful, like nothing I've ever experienced. The mood in the room shifted quickly from shock to fear. Some team members whispered among themselves, speculating about what the suit might do. Others argued about whether Alex should be quarantined or monitored closely. Rachel insisted on taking immediate action, pointing out that they had no idea what kind of threat the suit posed. For all we know, it's controlling him right now, she said, glaring at Alex. Dr. Shaw tried to mediate, urging everyone to stay calm and think rationally. We need to study this, she explained. If we act impulsively, we might lose valuable information, or worse, trigger something we can't reverse. Her words did little to ease the tension. Alex could feel the weight of their stares, the mistrust building between them. He wanted to reassure them, to explain that he hadn't meant any harm, but the voices in his head grew louder, making it hard to focus. As the argument continued, Alex's frustration mounted. He flexed his hand absent-mindedly, and without meaning, too. He slammed it into a nearby metal wall. The impact left a deep crater, silencing the room instantly. Everyone turned to look at him, their expressions a mix of fear and disbelief. Alex stared at his hand, equally surprised by what he'd done. In that moment, he realized the full extent of the suit's power and the danger it represented. The discovery had started as a triumph, a glimpse into the mysteries of the universe. But now, it felt like a curse. Alex was trapped inside the suit, unable to escape its influence, while those around him saw him less as a colleague and more as a threat. The voices in his head grew louder, urging him to move, to act, to embrace whatever destiny awaited him. And as the days passed, the rift between Alex and the rest of the team widened, setting the stage for what was to come. The days following Alex's decision to activate the alien suit were tense and unsettling. The team at the outpost struggled to adjust to the new reality, unsure of how to handle the situation. Alex himself was going through changes he couldn't fully explain. At first, the suit had felt empowering, giving him strength and speed beyond anything he'd ever imagined. But as time went on, the voices in his head grew louder and more insistent. They weren't just background noise anymore. They were constant, almost overwhelming. Dr. Emily Shaw tried her best to keep the peace. She spent hours observing Alex, running tests, and analyzing the suit's properties. Her goal was to understand its purpose and find a way to safely remove it. But progress was slow. The suit resisted every attempt to study it closely. Its surface seemed to absorb tools and instruments, rendering them useless. Even basic scans yielded confusing results, as if the suit was actively blocking their efforts. Meanwhile, Rachel Brooks grew increasingly impatient. As the security officer, she saw Alex as a potential threat to the safety of the outpost. She argued that the suit could be controlling him, turning him into something dangerous. "We don't know what's happening inside his head," she told the group during one heated meeting. "For all we know, he's not even Alex anymore." Her words struck a nerve with everyone, including Alex. He wanted to defend himself, to assure them that he was still in control. But the truth was more complicated. The voices in his mind weren't just random noise, they were guiding him, urging him to do things he didn't fully understand. Sometimes they whispered commands that felt impossible to ignore. Other times they filled him with visions of distant worlds and ancient civilizations. It was disorienting, like being pulled in two directions at once. Emily tried to reason with Rachel, emphasizing the importance of patience. "If we rush this, we might make things worse," she said, calmly. "We need to figure out how the suit works before we try to take it off." But Rachel wasn't convinced. She believed action needed to be taken immediately, regardless of the risks. Her stance created a divide within the team. Some sided with her, agreeing that caution was necessary. Others, like Dr. Shaw, thought isolation or forceful measures would only escalate the problem. Tensions reached a boiling point one evening when Alex accidentally demonstrated the extent of the suit's power. The team was gathered in the main lab discussing their next steps. Rachel pressed Alex with questions, demanding answers about the voices and what they were telling him. Alex, already on edge, snapped. "I don't know what they're saying," he shouted, frustration evident in his voice. "They won't stop, it's like they're inside my head." Before anyone could respond, Alex slammed his fist onto a nearby table in anger. The impact shattered the metal surface, sending shards flying across the room. Everyone froze, staring at him in stunned silence. For a moment, even Alex looked, shocked by what he'd done. He stared at his hand, trembling slightly before stepping back. The damage was undeniable proof of the suit's immense power, and the danger it posed. Rachel broke the silence first. "That's it," she said, firmly, her tone leaving no room for argument. "He needs to be contained. We can't risk having him lose control again." Her words sparked another round of arguments. Some team members agreed with her, while others hesitated, unsure of the right course of action. Emily stepped between them, trying to restore order. "Listen to yourselves," she pleaded. "Fighting isn't going to solve anything. We need to focus on finding a solution, not making rash decisions." Despite her efforts, the rift widened. That night, Alex lay awake in his quarters, unable to sleep. The voices in his head were relentless, filling his thoughts with fragmented images and cryptic messages. He felt trapped, not just by the suit but by the growing mistrust around him. His colleagues, once friends and collaborators, now looked at him with fear and suspicion. Even Emily, who had been supportive, seemed unsure of how to help him. The next morning, Alex decided to take matters into his own hands. He slipped away from the outpost, venturing outside into Europa's harsh environment. The icy landscape stretched endlessly before him, barren and desolate. Wearing the suit, he barely noticed the cold. Instead, he focused on the strange sensations coursing through him. The voices guided him, pulling him toward something in the distance, a faint glimmer of light on the horizon. Back at the outpost, panic set in when the team realized Alex was gone. Rachel immediately assumed the worst, insisting he had fled because he was losing control. Emily, however, suspected there was more to it. She reviewed the security footage and noticed Alex heading in a specific direction. "He's not running away," she told the group. "He's looking for something. Whatever's influencing him, it's leading him somewhere." Determined to bring him back, the team prepared to follow. Rachel armed herself, ready for any confrontation, while Emily packed equipment to monitor Alex's condition. The journey ahead promised to be perilous, but none of them could afford to stay behind. They needed answers, not just for Alex's sake, but for the survival of the entire outpost. As they set out across the frozen terrain, the weight of the situation settled over them. The discovery of the suit had started as a scientific breakthrough, a chance to learn about an advanced alien civilization. But now it felt like a burden, a test they weren't sure they could pass. Each step brought them closer to Alex, and perhaps to understanding the true nature of the suit. Yet, with every passing moment, the stakes grew higher and the line between ally and adversary blurred further. The icy winds of Europa howled as the team trudged across the frozen wasteland, their footsteps crunching against the brittle surface. The horizon was a blur of white and gray, with nothing but endless ice stretching in every direction. At the Yabo, center of their focus was Alex, who had ventured far ahead, driven by forces none of them fully understood. Rachel led the group, her weapon slung over her shoulder, her sharp eyes scanning the landscape for any sign of danger. Behind her, Dr. Emily Shaw carried a portable scanner, hoping to gather data on Alex's condition or the suit itself. Alex moved steadily, his pace almost mechanical. The voices in his head were louder now, more insistent, guiding him toward a distant point where a faint glow flickered against the bleak backdrop. He didn't know what awaited him there, but he felt drawn to it, as if some unseen force was pulling him closer. Every step brought a mix of fear and anticipation. He wanted to turn back to rejoin the others, but the suit seemed to resist the idea. It tightened slightly around his body whenever he hesitated, as if punishing him for second-guessing its will. The team followed at a cautious distance, keeping Alex in sight, but avoiding getting too close. Rachel's hand hovered near her weapon, ready to act if necessary. "Do you think he knows we're here?" she asked Emily quietly, her voice barely audible over the wind. Emily shook her head. "I'm not sure," she replied. The suit might be clouding his judgment, or maybe he just doesn't care anymore. As they pressed on, the tension between them grew thicker. Rachel's frustration bubbled to the surface. "This is a mistake," she muttered under her breath. "We should have stopped him when we had the chance." Emily shot her a stern look. "And then what? Locked him up? Forced him into something that could kill him? Or us? We need to understand what's happening before we make any rash decisions." Rachel clenched her jaw, but said nothing. Deep down she knew Emily was right, but her instincts screamed at her to take control of the situation. The longer they let Alex roam free, the more unpredictable the outcome became. She couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. Hours passed and the glow on the horizon grew brighter. It wasn't until they reached a ridge overlooking a vast crater that the source of the light became clear. In the center of the depression stood an enormous structure, a towering monolith made of the same metallic material as the suit. Its surface shimmered with glowing patterns that pulsed rhythmically, matching the cadence of the lights embedded in Alex's suit. The sight was both mesmerizing and unnerving. Alex stopped at the edge of the crater, staring down at the monolith. The voices in his head reached a fever pitch, urging him to descend. He hesitated, glancing back toward the team. They were still a safe distance away, watching him intently. For a brief moment, he considered turning around, explaining himself, asking for help. But the suit tightened again, almost painfully this time, and the voices drowned out his thoughts. He took a deep breath and began climbing down into the crater. When the team saw him move, they hurried forward, trying to catch up. Rachel raised her weapon, aiming it cautiously at Alex. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice echoing across the icy expanse. "Don't go any closer." Alex ignored her, his focus entirely on the monolith. Emily stepped forward, waving her arms frantically. "Alex, wait!" she called out. "We don't know what that thing is." But Alex was beyond hearing them. As he approached the base of the monolith, the suit reacted violently. The glowing patterns flared brighter, and the hum that had been constant since he activated the suit grew deafening. A wave of energy surged through him, forcing him to his knees. He cried out, clutching his head as the voices intensified, overlapping one another in a chaotic symphony. The team froze, unsure of what to do. Rachel tightened her grip on her weapon while Emily scrambled to activate her scanner. "What's happening to him?" someone whispered behind her. Emily didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on Alex, her mind racing with possibilities. Whatever was occurring, it was directly linked to the suit and the monolith. Suddenly, the ground beneath the monolith began to shift. Cracks spread outward, revealing hidden mechanisms within the structure. Panels slid open, exposing intricate circuits and glowing cores that pulsed in sync with the suit. Alex staggered to his feet, drawn inexorably toward the opening. The voices in his head coalesced into a single commanding tone, urging him to enter. Rachel acted quickly. "We can't let him go in there alone," she said, motioning for the others to follow. The team descended into the crater, moving as fast as the treacherous terrain allowed. By the time they reached the monolith, Alex had already stepped inside. The entrance sealed shut behind him with a loud hiss, leaving the team standing helplessly. Outside, Emily pressed her hands against the smooth surface, searching for a way to reopen it. "There has to be a way in," she muttered, her voice tinged with desperation. Rachel paced back and forth, her weapon still at the ready. "This is exactly why I said we should have stopped him," she snapped. "Now we've lost him, and we don't even know what's happening in there." Inside the monolith, Alex found himself in a cavernous chamber filled with holographic projections. Images of alien worlds and civilizations flickered around him, accompanied by the same melodic language he'd been hearing in his head. The voices grew clearer now, speaking directly to him. They explained that the suit was part of a test, a trial designed to identify worthy candidates capable of wielding its power. To pass, Alex would have to surrender completely, allowing the suit to merge fully with his consciousness. He recoiled at the thought. Surrendering meant losing himself, becoming something else entirely. But the voices left no room for negotiation. They promised knowledge, strength, and the ability to protect humanity, but at a cost. Alex hesitated, torn between accepting the offer and clinging to his identity. Outside, the team worked tirelessly to break through the monolith's defenses, unaware of the choice Alex faced. Time was running out. For all of them. The team outside the monolith was growing desperate. Emily pressed her hands against the smooth metallic surface, searching for any sign of weakness. Her fingers traced the glowing patterns that pulsed rhythmically, matching the beat of Alex's suit. She muttered to herself, trying to make sense of the alien technology. "There has to be a way in," she said again, her voice trembling with urgency. Behind her, Rachel paced back and forth, her weapon gripped tightly in her hand. The others stood nearby, watching helplessly as their options dwindled. "We can't just stand here," Rachel finally snapped, breaking the tense silence. "If we don't do something soon, he's gone for good." Her words hung heavy in the air, but no one disagreed. They all knew the stakes were high. Whatever was happening inside the monolith, it was changing Alex, and possibly sealing his fate. Emily stepped back, frustration etched on her face. "We need to think this through," she said, glancing at the scanner in her hand. "This thing is advanced, way beyond anything we've encountered before. Blasting our way in won't work. We'll only end up damaging the structure, or, worse, triggering some kind of defense mechanism." Rachel clenched her jaw, clearly unhappy with the idea of waiting. "Then what do you suggest?" she demanded. "We can't just sit here while he's in there being turned into whatever they're making him into." Emily hesitated, her mind racing. Then an idea struck her. "Electromagnetic pulses," she said suddenly, her voice rising with excitement. "The suit reacts to energy fields. If we can generate a strong enough pulse, we might be able to disrupt its connection to Alex, or at least weaken it enough to get him out." The suggestion sparked a flurry of activity. The team scrambled to gather equipment, piecing together a makeshift EMP generator using tools from their packs. It wasn't perfect, but it was their best shot. As they worked, Rachel kept watch, her eyes darting between the monolith and the icy horizon. "Hurry up," she urged under her breath. "We don't know how much time we have." Inside the monolith, Alex faced a choice that felt impossible. The voices in his head had grown clearer, almost gentle now, as if trying to reassure him. They explained that the suit was more than just armor. It was a conduit for immense power, capable of reshaping worlds. But to unlock its full potential, Alex would have to let go of his humanity. He would become something greater, but at the cost of who he was. Images filled his mind, vast galaxies, ancient civilizations, battles fought across stars. He saw himself standing tall, wielding the suit's power to protect and defend. For a moment, the vision was intoxicating. He could feel the strength coursing through him, the certainty that he was meant for this. But then doubt crept in. What would happen to him? Would he still be Alex Carter? Or would he be erased entirely? The voices grew insistent, urging him to accept. "You are chosen," they whispered. "Your world needs you. Embrace your destiny." Alex closed his eyes, struggling to focus. He thought about the team outside. Their faces flashed in his mind. Dr. Shaw, always calm and rational. Rachel, tough and unyielding. Even the others, who had looked at him with fear and suspicion. They weren't just colleagues. They were people who mattered. People he cared about. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "I can't." The voices faltered, their melody turning discordant. They pushed harder, filling his thoughts with warnings of failure and loss. But Alex held firm. "I'm not ready to give up who I am," he said aloud, his voice stronger now. "I won't." At that moment, the team outside activated the EMP generator. A surge of energy rippled through the air, invisible but powerful. Inside the monolith, the suit reacted violently. The glowing patterns dimmed, and the hum that had been constant since Alex activated it sputtered and faded. The voices in his head screamed in protest, their tones sharp and panicked. Then with a final burst of resistance, the suit released its grip on him. Alex staggered forward, collapsing to his knees as the weight of the suit lifted. It peeled away from his body piece by piece until it lay lifeless at his feet. Gasping for breath, he looked around the chamber. The holographic projections flickered and vanished, plunging the room into darkness. For a moment he was alone, surrounded by silence. Outside, the team braced themselves for the worst. The EMP had drained their equipment, leaving them vulnerable. In the harsh environment, Rachel tightened her grip on her weapon, preparing for anything. Then, with a loud hiss, the entrance to the monolith slid open. Alex stumbled out, blinking against the bright glare of Europa's distant sun. "Alex!" Emily called out, rushing toward him. She caught him as he swayed, steadying him with both hands. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. Alex nodded weakly, still catching his breath. "Yeah," he managed to say. "I think so." Rachel approached cautiously, lowering her weapon. "What happened in there?" she asked, her tone softer now. Alex shook his head. "It tried to take me," he said quietly. "But I said no. I couldn't let it win." The team gathered around him, relief washing over their faces. They had feared the worst, but Alex had come back, not as something alien, but as himself. Emily placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You did good," she said, smiling faintly. "We'll figure the rest out together." As they made their way back to the outpost, the weight of what they'd experienced settled over them. The suit lay dormant once more, its secrets still hidden. But for now, they had survived. And though the journey ahead promised to be difficult, they knew they had taken the first step toward understanding, not just the alien technology, but themselves. The journey back to the outpost was quiet, each member of the team lost in their own thoughts. Alex walked slowly, his body still adjusting to the absence of the suit. Though it was gone, he could still feel its presence lingering in his mind, like an echo that refused to fade. The voices were silent now, but their memory haunted him. He kept replaying the moments inside the monolith, wondering if he had made the right choice. Had he rejected something extraordinary, or saved himself from becoming something unrecognizable? Emily stayed close to Alex, watching him carefully. She could see the exhaustion etched on his face, the strain of what he had endured. "You're going to be okay," she said softly, her voice steady and reassuring. "We'll get through this together." Alex nodded, though his expression remained distant. He wanted to believe her, but the experience had changed him in ways he couldn't yet understand. Rachel led the group, her weapon still slung over her shoulder. She glanced back occasionally, her sharp eyes scanning Alex for any sign of trouble. Though she hadn't said much since they left the monolith, her posture spoke volumes. She was still wary, still unsure of whether the danger had truly passed, but there was a flicker of respect in her gaze now, a recognition of the strength it must have taken for Alex to resist the suit's pull. When they reached the outpost, the warmth of the interior was a welcome relief from Europa's freezing temperatures. The team gathered in the main lab where Emily set up equipment to monitor Alex's condition. She ran tests, checking for any lingering effects of the suit. So far, everything seemed normal, but she knew they couldn't rule out unseen changes. "We'll keep an eye on you," she told Alex, her tone firm but kind. "Just in case." As the hours passed, the team began discussing what to do next. The suit lay in a containment unit, sealed away for further study. It no longer pulsed with light or emitted any sound, but its presence loomed large in the room. Rachel crossed her arms, her expression grim. "We need to figure out how to deal with that thing," she said, nodding toward the suit. "It's too dangerous to leave lying around." Emily agreed, though her focus was more cautious. "We can't rush this," she reminded them. "This is alien technology, far beyond anything we've ever encountered. If we mishandle it, we risk triggering another incident." Her words carried weight, but they didn't ease the tension in the room. Everyone knew the suit was a potential threat, but destroying it wasn't an option, not when it held so many unanswered questions. Alex sat quietly, listening to the debate. He felt torn between gratitude and guilt. His decision to activate the suit had brought them all to the brink of disaster. Yet without it, they might never have discovered the monolith or the advanced civilization behind it. Maybe it's not just about us, he said suddenly, breaking the silence. All eyes turned to him. I mean, the suit chose me for a reason. Maybe it wasn't just testing me, it was testing all of us. His words sparked a new line of thought. Emily leaned forward, intrigued. You think it was designed to evaluate humanity as a whole? She asked. Alex shrugged. It's possible. The aliens who built it, they were looking for someone worthy of their knowledge. Maybe they wanted to see if we could handle power responsibly. Rachel frowned, unconvinced. That doesn't change the fact that it nearly destroyed us, she pointed out. Even if it was some kind of test, we failed. We let curiosity override caution, and look where it got us. Alex didn't argue. He knew she was right, at least in part, but he also believed there was value in what they had learned. The suit had shown them their strengths and their weaknesses. It had forced them to confront fear, mistrust, and the limits of their understanding. In doing so, it had revealed something important. Humanity wasn't ready for the kind of power the suit represented. Not yet. Over the following days, the team worked together to document everything they had experienced. They recorded Alex's account of the voices and the visions, analyzed the data collected during their journey, and studied the suit itself. Progress was slow, but each discovery brought them closer to unraveling its mysteries. Emily remained optimistic, convinced that the answers were within reach. Every piece of information brings us one step closer, she told the group. We just have to stay patient. For Alex, the process was both healing and humbling. Talking about what had happened helped him process the experience, but it also reminded him of how close he had come to losing himself. He spent hours reflecting on the choices he had made and the lessons he had learned. The suit had offered him power, but it had also demanded sacrifice. In rejecting it, he had reaffirmed his humanity, and that realization gave him strength as time passed. The atmosphere at the outpost began to shift. The initial fear and mistrust that had driven them apart gradually gave way to a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer just a team of scientists and engineers. They were explorers, united by a shared goal. Together, they vowed to continue, studying the suit and the monolith, determined to uncover the secrets they held. One evening, as the team gathered in the lab, Emily stood before them, holding a holographic projection of the monolith's structure. This is just the beginning, she said, her voice filled with determination. We've barely scratched the surface of what this technology can teach us. But if we approach it carefully, if we work together, we might unlock insights that could change the course of human history. Her words resonated with everyone, including Alex. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of his colleagues. They had been through so much, faced dangers they could never have imagined. Yet here, they were, still standing, still striving to understand. For the first time in days, Alex felt a glimmer of hope. The suit had tested them, pushed them to their limits, but it had also brought them closer together. As the team dispersed for the night, Alex lingered in the lab, staring at the containment unit where the suit lay dormant. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But he also knew they had taken the first step toward something greater. The suit had chosen him, but it was humanity's responsibility to decide what came next. And, as Alex turned off the lights and left the lab, he felt a quiet resolve settle over him. Whatever the future held, they would face it, together.